Shubhra was wondering whether the picture was his. I was wondering whether the introduction was mine. So it's almost seemed like he was introducing someone, but thank you so much for your kind words, and really happy to be here. It's a wonderful session. Looked at the lineup of the speakers, the lineup of the topics, and I'm sure you'll be really enjoying it throughout the day. And hopefully I can start off with something that would be interesting, that would lead into the subsequent conversations. And I will try my best and try not to be nervous. You tried your best to kind of psych me in the morning. But this is an interesting subject, and what I'm going to cover is not so much around the technology side of the story, but more around the operating processes. And when I say operating processes, coming from a finance professional, this is a little bit of an oxymoron, because in finance, you do not think of that as a process. You think of that as finance, right? So this is the subject of my discussion today. I wouldn't say a keynote speech or anything. That's a pretty heavyweight term. But Outperform through process excellence powered by shared services models. I think that's the piece I'm going to focus on, because that's what I run in Citi's financial space. And it's a view from the corporate finance. It's not a view from sales or front end, but you'll surely see a lot of similarities in how we operate and the processes and the programs that we follow and the tools that we use. Skip the content. Obviously, we'll cover pretty much all of that over the next 30 minutes, and hopefully I wouldn't be seeing the sign that time is up. But at the same time, I would encourage a lot of questions, and probably for the sake of keeping it within the right timeline, I'll take it once I'm done with the presentation. So what's the role of finance in an organization? Let's try to answer that question, the very fundamental question, because that tells us what process we need, what tool we need. And at its very core, fundamentally, it has got two traditional roles. One is the stewardship of the financial, making sure that the numbers are right, what's presented to the street is correct to our stakeholders and to our shareholders and business partners. That's one part of the story. The second part of the story is business decision making. That's the other side of the finance role, that we are partners of the business, of our CEOs and of our COOs in making sure that they make the right business decisions that are financially sound and moves the business forward. Now, why these two are critical, right? It's critical because if you look at the first one, the stewardship, given the increasing regulation, given the need, that the demand for a robust controllership function, the need for integrity of financial, this is absolutely critical. If you work in Wall Street, you'll kind of realize that more. Every day you will see new acts coming up, Frank Dodd, and everybody and every senator wants to have their name on the legislation, and you got to deal with it, right? Why the second one is critical, besides obviously the traditional role of business decision making, in the current environment with the economic uncertainty, some of the business sectors doing well and some are not doing so well. Some of the businesses have a real difficult time raising capital, and some are sitting on a pile of cash, doesn't know what to do with it, correct? So you or we as a CFOs have a role to make sure that both those situations are addressed appropriately. That's the reason why we exist. And everything that we do from that point on has to be driven by these two fundamental roles that we play in any organization. Now, if you think about, I don't know how many of you here in the audience are directly involved in the finance function, but I'm sure you all have your association with it. So if you think about a CFO, the real dilemma today is, how do you support the business decision making? How do I make, leave alone augment the level of services that I provide to my customers? How do I retain and motivate my talent? How do I deal with the external regulations? The last one is interesting. How do I deliver further efficiency in my own cost structure? I have seen in my 15, 16 years on the street, umpteen number of CFOs who goes after the business to make sure that their cost is managed, but have very little idea about the cost of finance in an organization. Very little idea. They can't even say what's the total cost of finance in an organization. It's true for a 100-people organization to a 100,000-people organization. So it's a very different thought process that you don't see much